everybody. My name is Angie Murenga. You're watching Just Angie, and it's Mes Favoris, which I love. It's my favorite things. And one of my favorite things is getting help in terms of counseling, psychology, marriage and family therapy. I love those, having those conversations, because these are things that we all need and they really change us. And I wasn't great on therapy. I even didn't believe in it. But it got to a point in my life where I did, and I went for sessions, and it's really helped me. So I'm here today to help you and empower you on these two subjects. And so I've invited a friend. Her name is Catherine. I'll allow her to introduce herself, and then we'll have a conversation. So you can look into that camera. And karibu sana.
Asante.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you. So my name is Catherine Kawira Ochieng, and I am a marriage and family therapist. I have been practicing from the year 2013 and really enjoying the journey, because at the end of the day, I realized that this is not only for me, but for others. And this was, it came from a place of knowing that I came from a dysfunctional family and I needed to reach out to others with the healing process, because I had received the healing myself.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. And how did you do the healing? Did you also go for, so you're a counseling psychologist first of all?
Yes.
And then a marriage and family therapist.
Yes.
So you did the counseling psychology first, then the marriage and family therapy.
Right.
So you started at an interesting point. How did you receive the healing yourself then?
Okay, so in around 2009, I was really going through a very difficult time in my life. And I was at that developmental stage where everything was seemingly not working. But I also realized that there was a lot of childhood trauma that I was struggling with.
Wow.
And so my relationships were not working. My parenting was also not working. Being a wife was also not working. It was, it was chaos. And so I felt deep down inside that, when it came to the work environment, I was performing very well. But then when it came to my relationships, I was really feeling like I was failing. And you see, if you're performing well, but in your relationships back at home, it's not working, then I knew that I needed to get help for me, not for other people, but for me. And so I did a research, and I went ahead and explored the different universities that offer counseling, because I knew that from the place of counseling, learning counseling, I would get healing myself.
Yeah.
So one of the very interesting things that I did when I joined my first year studying counseling psychology, I asked the lecturer, use me, and use my case study as an example of what I need to do when we are applying the different theories. And that way, everybody in the class, used my story. And that way I got my healing, so my lecturer was not judgmental, and my classmates were amazing. Actually, in that class, we were only 5. Wow. And I will forever be grateful to my lecturer.
But thank you for being that brave. I like that. Being brave, and then being authentic. Because a lot of us have this trauma, but we don't want to be authentic. We don't want to say that this is what we're going through. And then we don't want to share and say, I need help. How can we help? How can you guys help me? How can we use this as a practical case study in this session to actually now give practical solutions, but even in a learning situation. So that for me is very powerful. Right. Because the other thing, I speak to a lot of people. I'd say I counsel, I coach, mentor. And one of the things that has become very clear to me is, don't like percent, but like 90% of the world, the challenges that we have is because of trauma. Yeah. Challenges in marriage, that's trauma. Yes. There's sometimes two traumatized people who love each other and want the best for each other, but the trauma keeps showing up. Right. So this trauma keeps causing problems. And until it's taken me so long to realize it's trauma. It's traumatic experiences that drive people to do things that you wonder, who does that?
Yeah.
A traumatic person actually does that. Person who's been through trauma, a person who has not dealt with their trauma. And remember, I told you, I didn't believe in those things. I don't know, therapy and what is that? But the more, and mine were inspired by my daughter. So we were clashing so much. And you know me and I love my daughter. We had a very close relationship for very long. Then all of a sudden, everything blew up. And I'm wondering, who is this child? This cannot be my child. And like, what happened? And so therapy is where we went. Like, let's go unpack this, because when me and you talk, it's like we're not communicating. So let's go sit and talk to somebody else. Let's see with them now what they tell us and how they help us. So that was very good, because we went together, then we all did separate ones, then we came back together. So I actually became a believer. And then through that, the therapy, I then began to understand, even other people I had conflict with. I understood their trauma and I understood mine. I actually knew, I said, this one now, Kumbe, this is trauma. Or even how you see a whole family, brothers, sisters, they all behave the same. These are traumatic experiences from childhood that are causing everybody to act this way. And so it also, maybe it's because of how the age I am now, it made me compassionate. Like, I didn't say, you have trauma. I said, because of this, because of my own traumatic experiences, which were guiding my behavior, I could see other people's traumatic experiences and how they're guiding their behavior, but I had compassion. So trauma is really, really important.
Trauma is real.
We have to handle our trauma. Whether they're childhood experiences, youth experiences, adult experiences, where trauma has struck, we need to address it.
Very important. And the reality is that many people, actually a very high percentage, struggle from trauma in their childhood. And especially from 0 to 1 year.
0 to 1?
0 to 1.
0 to 1, you can't even remember.
You can't remember, but you know, when your parent probably is going through trauma themselves, they'll not give you the attention that you need. So there is neglect.
From 0 to 1?
From 0 to 1.
That young.
Trust issues begin from 0 to 1, Pastor Angie. And you see, if that is not sorted in good time, then you find that people grow up, struggling with trust issues. They also struggle with their self-esteem because they don't even trust themselves to do anything. And they begin to doubt themselves. And of course, to deal with that, they get into conflict with everybody because they have to justify themselves. So you can imagine a scenario where a parent, for instance, was abusing drugs, or parents were going through separation or divorce. During pregnancy, it's a bit, tricky for parents also, because there is a lot going on with the mother. And so even after the delivery, some parents get, postpartum depression. And if that is not dealt with at that time, the mother will unconsciously get off the scene and begin to attend to themselves. And it's not because they intentionally want to do that, but it is a struggle that they have and the experience that they've had through the pregnancy. So what happens to this child? This child feels neglected. They keep crying. They're always seeking attention. And so it becomes a learned behavior.
Where we're always seeking attention through the different stages of life.
And so you find that an adult in their 30s begins to throw tantrums, and you're wondering, so what is it? Why are you, behaving that way? And yet it's because of the issues that unfinished issues that they've never resolved from their childhood.
So I'm a great believer. I don't know about you, now that you have the education, you'll tell us, but I'm a great believer in that everybody needs to go for therapy. Everybody needs to talk to somebody, just talk to things, see whether you can pack things. And then again, when I say that, usually people will say, I'm private. I don't want my stories to be known. But then I love that the world has become a village. You can choose any country in the world. You don't have to travel there. You just need to get your internet out, your computer out, and do a Zoom call to somebody you'll never meet. Choose Yugoslavia. Do it there. I mean, but just talk to somebody, because I think it helps us. It's like we need to unpack. We need to unpack these experiences that happen to us that we don't want to deal with. Or even another thing which I have found is triggers. Like sometimes I'd act and I'd say, why have I, what happened? What triggered me to this reaction that is so like, this is not me. So I started also identifying my triggers. Yeah, so that's important to identify what is triggering you. But I'm not the expert. I've been saying I'm going to school to do marriage and family therapy, because I feel like there's so much drama in families and marriages, which then carries on for generations, that we need to put a stop to it. But
So one of the things that I would like to share this afternoon is that there is power in vulnerability.
There is. We can say that again.
Because if you're not vulnerable, then you'll always be working towards hiding and masking whatever it is that is going on inside of you. As a therapist, if I don't go for my own therapy, then I will go harming clients. And I really like what you've said, that you are in a space where you're so self-aware that you're able to go back to self and explore what triggered
me.
But very many people do not want to go to that place. And it's a very healthy place to go. Why? Because for you to function well in your day-to-day, then you have to go back to your negative self and explore why, and be able to also question what caused that, and of course find solutions to the same, because the answers lie right within each one of us. And so we can't camouflage everything. We can't just act like everything is all together when it's not. Otherwise, we will be conflicted, and that conflict begins from inside, and of course it's extended in every area of our lives. And you find that people also will begin to see that something is not right in us.
People begin to say, that's a bit of an overreaction, that's a bit dramatic. We don't even want to say this. If we say this, we don't know how they're going to behave. We don't know how they're going to behave today, tomorrow. People could even begin to avoid you.
Exactly. And so your performance, even when it comes to, your own business or even performance at work, of course it's at the minimum, because what you begin to do is not to focus on the work, but you're focusing on self. So what will people say? So if I react like this, you're always thinking about what are people seeing. But then we really need to be courageous enough, and this is where I really love the serenity prayer that says, grant me the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change, and to have the courage to change the things that I can, and to know the difference. That way, you are in a place where you're open to receiving change, correction, and we don't have to always, be guarded, because some of us really walk around so guarded, and you also are not free to express yourself.
And then I think also, as you're saying that, then we refuse to let people in. Because maybe if you learn this behavior, you learn like this, you start saying, maybe I'm not such a great person, so I'll just stay away from people. Or maybe I've tried to work this out relationship, it doesn't work, so I'm going to do this. So you sort of hide yourself, you cocoon yourself, you won't let people in. And then I don't think you live the fullness of the life that you were supposed to live. And then also the other flip side of that, also you're masking things, you're hiding things, you have so many secrets. The web of, if we just start like just unraveling secrets that, it's not even healthy. You shouldn't have to live like that. You need to live. And I think that's what also therapy does, because you feel like a weight has lifted off your shoulders. Even before you get into what work do you have to do. Just talking about it and coming clean with somebody about this, it's already has lifted the weight. And now we can begin to see how do we how do we make the changes that we need to make? And I've just thought about, even as you're speaking, many of the people who say they don't need therapy say they have it all together, but it's not true.
It's not
because
true.
There's a place where you are not responsible for your experiences. You can say in adulthood, you are responsible for your experiences, but in childhood, you are not responsible for those experiences. Things happened.
Yes.
And they happen to you, and they're having an effect on you, they're having an impact on you, and you can't deny it.
And that comes from a place of believing that, children, unfortunately, they believe that they caused the experiences that happened to them. So if parents, for example, have gone through divorce, then the children believe they are the cause.
Yeah, and I've always found that very strange, but they always, in all situations, believe that they're the cause.
Yes. And that's how the child's mind operates
now.
And children also begin to care for their parents. I've worked with little children, and how children think is so, they are just the way they are. So, like, for instance, the parents are fighting as they are coming to school. So they will decide that, you know what, I'll not go to school, so I will cry so that I can take care of mommy, for example. Or I can stay around mommy and daddy to keep them
from
safe.
Fighting.
So they take up the caregiving role. So what happens to this child as an adult? I am just fine, and everything is all together. I am on top of things.
Well, I'm sorting other people's things.
So you find that this person becomes very controlling and wants to be on top of every situation. And yet, deep within themselves, they ignore and they don't want to address whatever it is that they are going through. Also, at the same time, we come from backgrounds or families where, like, for instance, you're told that you should not cry.
You shouldn't cry.
Now, why? In fact, you're even spanked for crying. So why are you crying? And yet, I don't know why the spanking was being done. It was supposed to, get you to have some emotions and feel the pain and cry. But then you're beaten again not to cry. And so there's a lot of confusion in that because, we as parents, for example, or as children, we are not taken through the process of learning how to express our emotions freely. So with the parent, they will judge the emotion of anger, for example, negatively because of where she comes from.
That's
so
true.
If you get angry, then you associate anger, with an experience that is negative. And yet anger is not a bad emotion. Where it becomes negative is what you do when you're angry. But anger is a beautiful emotion because it helps you to know what does not sit in well with you because of the values that you have. So we need to really go back to that space of what are the values. And so going back to that space of, masking and shielding ourselves. So what are the values that we've been taught? Being strong is supposed to be a value within the family. But
you're the strong one.
But what is the strong
one?
Yeah.
So you'll always be strong until the day you break down and nobody can believe you've broken down.
In fact, that's why people just mask all over. And when somebody dies, that's when people come and say, but that person was so strong.
Yeah. They even say, even in grief, when you're saying that,
yes,
sometimes they even deny you grief.
Yeah.
Like you have to be strong. Yeah. You have to be strong for your mom.
Yeah.
You have to be strong. You're being told who you have to be strong for. You have to be strong for your siblings.
Yeah.
So you have to be strong. So you can't even express grief because now they need you to be strong, even at this point, and you don't want to be strong. But that thing is going to come out in different ways. And I think even households, households, how people grew up.
Yes.
People grew up with a lot of traumatic experiences in their homes.
Many. Yes. And I can just, I love sharing my story. I came from a very, very dysfunctional home. In the 70s, being in a blended family, was something.
It was taboo or something. It was unheard
blend.
of. And even if they did, they didn't even hide. You see, that's another thing. That was more masking, more hiding.
Yes.
You can't blend any family here. Everyone stays there. Or we pretend.
And how does a woman get divorced? How?
It was
and so even for you as a child, when you come from a single parent home, everybody looks at you with an eye of, hey, you guys, you have many issues. And so from a very young age, for even that, my parent, for instance, my mother, being a single parent, managing the societal
expectations and stigma.
And also trying to raise me and my sister in such an environment, it was not easy.
It was very difficult.
And then on top of that, there were such high expectations of her at the workplace, because, you know, she was a very strong-willed woman and really wanted to go out there and perform the duties, you know, that men, you know, did. But that really had an impact on us, you know. And then, of course, very quickly at the age of 6, we are blended, you know, and you find 5 children, extra children, brought into your home, and you're like, okay, so now mommy has gone away. And so you can imagine the trauma I had. I didn't have the vocabulary to say that this is trauma. But my mom was a very significant person in my life. She was so close to me. You know, everywhere my mom went, I would always be somewhere around the corner. Then suddenly,
no more.
It's not there. But then I got that back. I got that back now later when, you know, my stepfather passed on. It's like there was a reunion. And we were able to have a conversation. But that was 37 years later. You can imagine, 37 years of trauma. But you couldn't talk about it. No. And I'm just thinking, there are so many people who are going through that as little children, and even as they grow, they don't have anyone to talk to.
Yeah.
And those are the people I feel really called to reach out to, the ones the society calls the illegitimate
children,
that which I have been called. And I'm thinking, they're actually legit.
There's nothing illegitimate about them.
There is nothing illegitimate with those children. They're actually very legit in God's eyes, and even in the society, because there's no, you know, sign that I carry around saying that this was my background. But you know, there is healing that happens, very deep healing that happens. And you know, you find your purpose in your pain. That is my tagline.
Yeah.
I found my purpose in my pain. And I found that even when I talk to children, when I engage with children, when I engage with adolescents, adults, you know, I can identify with that, with the journey that they are going through, not from a theoretical place,
practical,
but practical.
It happened to you.
Yes, and I love what I do, because you know, sometimes even for those that, you know, mask, it's a beautiful place to just let it go and know that God can use your story to impact another person that's struggling through that journey. And even as you go through therapy, you might find that even the therapist probably went through that journey and probably, you know, can help you process your healing. Yeah. Because everybody's story is very unique.
Yeah.
Yes.
I hope you're going to write a book.
Most definitely.
You have to write a book, Catherine, because you have to share those unique experiences. Because also I feel sometimes when God allows us to be the first, like in the 70s, that was not a common practice.
Yes.
So he allowed you to be first and to experience it, the first to experience a blended family, you know, a long time ago.
Yes.
The fact that you got an opportunity to come back and do this with your mom, even the fact that you've gone to school to do counseling, psychology, and to do the marriage and family therapist. I think that's very, it's very powerful. It's like, I feel like there's so many moving parts, but God has allowed it all to come together. And so we write books because we want to empower others. We want people to know they're not alone. And the power of a book, it really can go far. I mean, and it will always outlive you. It will be read by so many people. And that's the power. That's the power of writing a book. So I really pray that you're able to do that. I'm very proud of the work that you've done. I've known you for a long time. We can't even remember how we met, but I've known you for a long time. And I'm so grateful to have known you and to see the journey, both our journeys, and to see us come a long way. And so I know we'll give the viewers your how to contact you on social media and if it's your email and things like that. So I really hope you use the opportunity to reach out to Catherine and to get the help that you need. But if you could look in that camera and just give us your parting shot.
Okay.
Yes, or statement.
So, you know, childhood trauma is real. And all of us experience some degree of trauma. It could be from our parents. It could be even from our teachers. Teachers who said, you know, not very nice things to us. It could be from our friends who were bullied in school. It could have been from, you know, our colleagues, our bosses. But, you know, that's not the end. You have an opportunity to experience change in your life. And, you know, therapy is a safe space for you to experience your change and inner healing. Inner healing, not bandaging and not masking anymore, but going through a process of healing for yourself first. And then you'll find that the ripple effect will be experienced by those around you today and even for the future generations. So thank you so much for giving me this opportunity, and I'm really glad to have been here.
Yeah, I really am as well. And you said something generational, because once we get the healing, then we can pass it down to generations, because you bring out the next generation differently, or they have different experiences, and then this is something that continues to be carried on. And I just felt like in my spirit, if you're a person who's been asking yourself, why do I behave like this, you know, or finding yourself doing and acting in ways that you're not proud of, or even struggling with an addiction, I think it's important to go to therapy. Like, why am I like this? Why is this my default setting? Why is this my response? Why is it that I feel so stuck? Why do I feel alone? Why do I feel like everybody owes me something? You know, when you're going through those feelings and emotions, it's good to find a therapist. It's good to talk to somebody so that you don't have to go through everything alone. You can actually begin to unpack the way that you're feeling and the reasons for why you're feeling and the triggers that you experience, and begin healing. And I think that is so, so powerful. So thank you so much, Catherine.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming.
For the opportunity.
Thank you for going to school and studying, and thank you for all the people that you're able to minister to.
Thank you so much.
I'm really grateful. God bless.
God bless you too.
All right. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.